No problem. Guy's not working today. Chris is not practicing again with that groin. Donovan Smith. Trey Smith is sick. That's why he's not working today. Kadarius with the hip. Rasheed and Sneed. Everybody else is practicing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
What's up? Hi.
What'd you have to say to Richie about the end zone?
We had a all week long we had this special play that we practiced and it looked really good in practice, and he was anxious to to make it work, and we just didn't get the kick we wanted. But he tried to force it, and unfortunately we didn't pop it out of there. It would have been special had we did, and it would have been special if we got the kick, because I think the guys had it blocked up early. It's just the hang time, and obviously it was a little bit, obviously too deep come out. But I think he summed it up. He talked about it, and he held accountability for it. So it's all good.
What's the rule of thumb? Inside the 10?
There's no, I've said this before. There's no really rule, because the punters are so good. They can spin that ball and land it at the 2 and make it stop. So, if the ball's hanging and it's around 8, 9. We want to try to catch it, because if you let it drop, it's going to get inevitably it's going to be inside the 5. So, we try to field them if we can, and steal them when we can. And I want him to stay aggressive, because you want your punt returner to to be an aggressive mentality. Because if he's not, he's never going to get any returns. Like if he wasn't aggressive on that one he had, the one long one he had, he would have fair caught it, and we would have got nothing out of it. So it's you got to be careful what how you coach these guys.
Would you consider? This isn't the first time this has happened. Would you consider putting where someone's caught the ball and you've ended up with very poor field position because of it, and catching the ball deep, like you said, we've had this conversation before. Would you consider putting, hey, it's the 8 guys, because you've got kind of this floating thing, and it kind of.
I think it's play to play. It's punter to punter. It's game to game. I think it changes all the time. I'm not going to just set a number. Like it was in the old days when it was 10 yards and don't touch it. It's simple to say that, but it's not. That's not the way it is anymore. It's just not. It's game to game.
The aggressive, do you chart? Do you have a scoring system on how the aggressiveness is outweighing the negative plays?
No.
It's just by feel.
Yeah. It's when you need a play, you try to make a play, and it's. We had a design play on that one, so it just didn't work out. Kick didn't get it. So
Seeing 2 guys back,
sometimes,
yeah.
That's a play. We might have 3 or 4 things that we do off of that. If you have a punter that's directional and he tries to get you out of position, you put 2 back there. Now where's he going to kick it? So.
How difficult is this week with guys being down and
very.
guys moving up?
Yeah, it's going to be what's going to happen. I'll have you'll see a lot of the same guys. There's nobody else to go to, so those guys will be our guys. The difference is that they're going to have a whole bunch of plays. There might be some guys that play 80 plays in this game. That's not going to be strange, So, guys like Jack Cochran and Cam Jones, those guys are going to get a lot of reps because they're going to be playing a lot on defense and. Obviously everything on special teams. So, you just gotta dig down and go. That's the way it's gonna be.
I know Harrison's had a really good year. The Pro Bowl roster came out. I guess as long as Justin Tucker's around, it's gonna be really hard to.
Justin Tucker, he's an excellent kicker, but I thought Bucker was as good this year. I thought his numbers were good and great. Both of them had great numbers. I thought Bucker deserved it, but there's only one guy can get it. So it's. We still got the All-Pro out there, so maybe he'll make that team.
Is this week a week to, since it doesn't matter in the standings, is it a week to make it a laboratory, try some things out, or is it a week to keep
it's for us, yes, maybe for them too. They got nothing to lose, so we're talking about how they can be a little bit more aggressive and try to get something on us. So, you open it up a little bit. The thought process is that you can be a little bit more aggressive sometimes in this type of game.
In this type of game too,
little bit of a preseason type feel, if you will, but,
Yeah.
you know, during the preseason, you're always talking about, like, guys you're excited to see. Anybody here that you're excited to see try to make a impact?
I'm actually excited to see some of the guys on offense. Ross. He's going to get a lot more. That's one guy I just got done watching walkthroughs. He was a guy that I thought I can't wait to see how he does in the game, getting a lot of reps. So
Couple more.
Harrison with 6 field goals.
Yeah.
It was an incredible day.
Great day.
Your thoughts on what he was able to do?
it was awesome. I mean, it was really the first one was the hardest one, the 54. I mean, not just because it was a 54, but just because the way the game was going, the momentum. We needed to do something to stop the bleeding a little bit, and that field goal kind of, made it 17-10, and okay, but it was a huge field. I was, getting when he was getting ready to hit it, I was like, wow, this is a big one, and when he made that one, it got us rolling a little bit.
Were you at all, I mean, I know you've got to have you guys ready to run out there. Were you at all surprised that the Bengals chose to go for 4th and 1 and not take the field goal? I know you would have been getting your field goal block ready or whatever. Did it kind of surprise you that they went?
Yeah, I mean, we're ready for both, always, you're a little surprised, but not much.
Thanks,
All right, thanks everybody.
Wrapped up in a, they pulled me in all different directions. I know that, Sid. See that? Production meetings, Adam, what are you gonna do, right? You guys were in them before. Good afternoon, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I don't think I've seen everybody since the new year, so appreciate you being here. I'll open it up and let you fire away.
Steve, you're probably gonna be playing some young guys, on Sunday. Anybody in particular you're eager to get a look at?
Sure, all of them that don't normally get in there, but, you know, I tell you what's gonna be the hardest thing is, you know, some of these guys are still gonna have to play special teams, but the guys that have typically been on a special teams, Jack Cochran, right, Cam Jones, those guys will play. Leo will probably play a little bit more. On the back end, Dion Bush, right, and he's played for us before, right? He's been when guys have gotten hurt. Anxious to see those guys. Up front, Felix, BJ, if we get him there, Malik, if we get him up and, you know, on the active. I always love watching Derek and Turk play, you know. Neil will be probably inside there. So all of those guys would be excited to watch play. Now, during that, I'll be praying nobody gets hurt. That'll be the thing, right? And listen, it's a blessing and a curse, in my opinion. Like, it's a blessing to be in this position. It's just tough navigating, you know, wanting to win the game and stop people when you get some different moving parts.
We asked you a few weeks ago about the slow starts defensively.
Yeah.
Now you're a little bit farther down that road.
Yeah.
Is anything you can put your finger on there?
Not really. I will say in this particular game, and I addressed it with the guys on Tuesday, I felt what got us in this game were the third downs. In the first half, they were successful on 7 of 9. Now, I think 2 of those were 3rd and 1s. So that leaves us with 5 losses on 3rd and whatever. And there were, in those 5, I watched them on Tuesday with the whole group. It was a discipline thing here and a discipline thing there. One, the quarterback got out and he probably beat us with his feet. But so those things early in the game on that down are really important, because if you win that and you don't have the undisciplined thing happen, maybe you get them to punt the football and then maybe the score's a little bit different. Now, I was proud of the way they came in the second half, because I think they were 1 for 7 in the second half, and that was huge. So we got to give the guys credit for adjusting and, right, taking the coaching on the sideline and being able to do what we did in the second half.
Coach, following up on the playtime thing, I mean, how much is it for evaluating like what roles can be in 2024, or could it be a situation where some of these guys could work themselves into even, you know, marginal playoff roles?
Yeah, I don't. But my mind, be honest, my mind's not on 2024. Like I really haven't thought of it that way. To be quite honest with you, I still keep the respect of the people we're playing. I mean, there's guys out there that are good football players we're going against. I'm impressed with what the quarterback can do, the tight end. I mean, the running back is still a really good player. So we're not going to go out there and think this is going to be anything other than trying to get an offense, preventing an offense from scoring points, quite honestly. And the rest of, you know, will there be tape there to look at later on? Yeah, but this is about defending an offense.
You mentioned the tape, there'll be tape of you, so is this a day where you experiment because the win-loss doesn't matter, or is it a day that you hide things?
It's a good that's a good question. There'll be a little bit of both. Probably a little bit of both. I mean, I'd be honest, if I have an idea in my head, which I've got a few, now I don't know who we're playing, but I probably won't throw something out there that we think we might use, but, and there might be some experimentation in there.
Do you do anything maybe different this week, end of the year? I know a couple of years ago when, you know, it was a similar situation, you weren't here yet, but Andy let, you know, Matt Nagy do more, stuff like that. Do you have different responsibilities in a game like this for maybe some of your younger coaches and have them do some other things, or do you just kind of keep it regular?
I tell you, I kind of took the approach this week, did it with the players and the coaches. I mentioned this morning. We're only 10 days away from playing our first playoff game. And so I said to the guys on Tuesday, at that time it was 12 days away, that's quicker than you think. Like, this game's in between, so it feels like it's a little bit longer. But my point to them was, let's stay in your routine. Don't lose your edge. Keep doing the things like you normally do every week. I mean, I use this example. If any of us were going to be in the Olympics next Sunday, and we had an individual event, we were going to use a high jump or something, we'd be working our butts off right now. Now, we might take a couple of days off before, But it's no time to stop working at it. So getting back to your question, there were some a little bit different things with the staff, but for the most part, we stayed on the same routine so that we're, you know, when Monday comes, we just get right back on it and roll. And I've asked the players to do the same thing. Like, you know, some of the guys know that they may not play a lot, but to a man, because I asked them to do it in the unit meetings, they're still taking notes on the charges. They're just in the routine. Just want to keep them.
Are you spending any time or energy this week?
I
Looking ahead
have,
to next week?
I have myself, but it's been later once, again, I just want to stop an offense that we're playing on Sunday.
You
So,
don't designate anything you normally do during the
well,
week?
coaches have their certain areas
Sure.
every
That's
week.
a normal thing.
Yeah, and they would, I'm sure, I've asked them to do the same thing, but that's off to the side after everything is set for this particular game.
Steve,
You
when it comes
mentioned
to,
wanting to get that extended look at Felix, and you knew when you drafted him, he had the hand issue, and you also knew you had a lot of depth at that position.
And then I think he had the groin too. He had something else that went on, really, because he was out for a long time.
So
Yeah.
has his development kind of been maybe as expected, even though he hasn't played a lot? And, you know,
I think he's developed well. The other thing I just realized the other day, I was having a conversation with someone, he's still very young. I'm not, you could check it. He might be 22. I don't know if you know, Sid, but George is young too. Yeah, we got some young guys there. So, but his I think I've seen him mature and grow in the meetings. I'm always asking guys questions. You know, I give them homework tapes at night and then ask him the next day. And Felix he's been on it. That tells me something. And I think development. And we'll see. It would be nice to see him get some plays this week, see where he's at. But I think we've never had a problem putting Felix in. It's just been more of the fact that George and Mike and Charles have been playing pretty good.
Something in particular you're looking for from him?
Not necessarily. With all these guys that maybe haven't played a lot, I'm looking to make sure that they know exactly what they're doing. You know, they'll do your job right. I'll be evaluating mental errors. You know, don't want to see those. That tells me that they've been staying up with the game plan. That'd be a good thing.
Steve, when it comes to Legarius and Trent, with the Pro Bowl coming out, they're not about individual accolades, but still,
Yeah.
the amazing season that they've had for you and for the team is a little bit of disappointing, just like the NFL just hasn't recognized their
Yeah.
fans that recognize.
Listen, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was disappointed. You know how I feel about those guys. It is what it is. I mean, again, because I know those guys, they're more concerned with the bigger picture. But yeah, disappointed is a pretty good word.
What about milestones? Are you concerned about, like, Chris Jones getting a half a sack?
I would love for Chris to get that. I think that's always good. We don't let that get in the way of, you know, what we're trying to do, and that being prevent points and win football games. But I hope all those guys get that. I want guys to get Pro Bowls and meet all that. I do. I mean, I would love to have that happen.
Is that your call or is that an Andy?
That's the boss who'll make that decision. He'll, you know.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Happy
Good.
New Year.
Yeah, you too. Happy New Year.
Do you feel that you got some things back on track from last week that now you can go into the playoffs knowing that you won't have your full starters playing?
I think it was good for us to be able to do what we said, which was try to eliminate and reduce the penalties, the turnovers. We of course had the sack fumble, which was big and early in the game. So you want to make sure you reduce those and eliminate them, and we know that we have to. They ended up getting points from that, and I think the rest of the game there we were much better with the penalty part. We did have the one illegal procedure from empty that you'd like to erase, but for the most part, the penalties, the turnovers, I thought Patrick did a great job decision making when stuff wasn't there. Being smart with what he did with the football, and the other guys running around him. We had some explosives too early on in that game. So being able to have you know, I mean, I think we only had 19 or 20 plays in the first half, and then there's a couple red zone plays in there where we'd like to be better. I think that's probably the biggest thing is red zone for sure. But I thought the explosives was good for the guys and for us to be able to get some bigger plays, bigger chunks early on, and it started, unlike the previous week on the first play, this past week, it started with a 9-yard run, and I thought that was great.
How do you keep the momentum going from that when a lot of the starters are not gonna get a lot of playing time?
Well, I think that's a really good question. You have to look at it two separate ways. I think number one is you try to take advantage of this time as a player and a coach, of whether it's rest for the players and for the coaches, but also preparation and how you do that. So that's a benefit. It's how you use that time. But then to your point too, you want to make sure that you use what you just did last week and don't lose that. I think what we're doing now is with the guys that are playing, we are using that. We are using the fact that, hey, look, when you eliminate penalties, when you protect the football, we can do some really good things. I think we also know that we can be better in the red zone, understanding that. So whether it's a run or pass. So we'll keep it going. I'll just continue to pull back or keep going back to how we handled the week last week going into it. And when you finally get that win at the end of the game, you feel good about it, but you also know there's more to come, and you don't want to have that deodorize the feeling of, hey, if there are some mistakes here still, we won, but we still can get a lot better.
You talked about that Pacheco run to start the game.
Yeah.
Kind of broke that tackle. He near the line of scrimmage. He really gave you guys a lift last week. What do you miss when he's not in the lineup?
Well, when you look at what Pops does, I mean, he's first of all, the football player, he's only going to continue to get better and better. He's learning himself, sometimes even patience through the hole, when to hit it with speed, when to be patient, let it develop. The tempo of that, he's going to continue to grow. But the one thing he does is go 100 miles per hour 100% of the time. We feed off of that. He's a young kid that's a great personality that all he wants to do is win. And, you know, every team usually has one or two guys on the team that's over the top with the excitement and in a good way, and he's our guy with that. So having a young guy like that brings the juice, not just on game day, but in the practice, after meetings, you know, he's always positive, and I just appreciate that about him.
This was the best deep ball game for Pat in a while. Do you sense that being maybe a breakthrough sign of things to come, or more so isolated, like laps in some of the Bengals coverages?
No, well, I mean, there was, obviously, we're well aware of the one breakdown that they had, and that's a part of the game. There's probably a lot more breakdowns that go on defense where things like that happen, maybe not as aggressive. But, you know, in our situation, that's been something that we haven't been able to have as many of. And so it is when you're able to, whether it's that or whether it's just, I mean, that was a great catch too. I mean, it was a great ball. It was a great catch in stride. So when you have those, whether it's as a play caller, whether it's as a team, whatever it is, it's a breather, and it's rhythm. You know, it's being able to have rhythm. It's not first, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third. There's chunks. And so now you get a big play. Now you want to be more effective in the red zone. But, you know, having 4 plays in that game over 35 yards was good, and that's a start. We know we have that within us. We just got to do it more consistently.
Now, when you said that Patrick did a good job when stuff wasn't there, I just wonder if you could expand on that. What would you say he did?
Just whether it's taking off and running, there's a few plays where it wasn't there, he took off and run, or if there is a time where there is a play that's there, and he feels fast in the pocket, you know, gets off the progression. Now it's don't take a bad sack, right? A coverage sack, throw the ball away. He had 2. They brought 2 nickel pressures to the field in a bunch set, and he's play actioning and turning around, and there's 2 guys in his face right away. Being able to get the ball off and not take an 8 to 10 yard sack, that's a smart decision. 3rd and 10 plus in the red zone, one of the hardest plays in football. Making sure you don't, you know, throw into coverage and make a play where it takes points away, a turnover, you know, and being okay. That was a game where we chipped away. We chipped away with 3 points, obviously 6 field goals, but he understood that, and I think that it's it's something that's a benefit of his growth, along with Rasheed. Rasheed had a play last week that he grew on from the previous week. When you see that kind of stuff, that's awesome. You love that as a coach. You love it as a player.
Last two, go ahead, Adam.
Matt, a little bit different type of season for Pat this year.
Mhm.
What effect, if any, you feel like it's had on him and his?
Well, I would say the normal person, you might say to affect him more, but for Pat, it's all about, he just wants to win, and he also knows, he's smart enough to understand that every year is different, and with that comes the ability to adapt. So when I say that, every year, whether it's people, whether it's situations, whatever it is, every year's a little bit different. Your identity's a little bit different, not just as an offense, but as a team and how you win. And I think he completely understands that now and is understanding that, hey, this might be the type of year where, just like we said, decision-making wise, we're smart with what we do. We don't turn the ball over. We have an exceptional defense that is keeping teams out of the end zone and doing really good things. So let's play complementary football. We're so used to the 40, 45 points at will all the time, and that's the goal. But we also have to understand through the course of a season how we're going to win.
Coach, kind of along that front about understanding how you're going to win. I mean, understanding every player is unique and their own, individual. But we hear a lot of coaches say, "Well, he's a young guy. He's a young guy." Well, they're young guys, but you only have 4 years of control, so you got to get something out of them, right? You can't take 7 years to develop a guy.
Sure.
So you get to a point, is now, or was the Cincinnati game? It's all about the postseason to where, okay, we've been trying to grow this guy to do all these things that we want to be a 40, 45 point team, but now we got to acknowledge we're going to be a 27-point team. Is that what we saw last week with the kind of scale back?
Maybe a little bit, and that's the identity part, how you're going to win. We never want to change our goal of scoring a lot of points, and whether it's being great on third down or great in the red zone, protecting the football. When you do that, there might not be as many explosives, but you find a way to score 30. However it goes on, we just want to play complementary football, and we know that going into the playoffs, that it doesn't matter how you win. If you win, everybody will be happy. So we want to do our job on offense to use this entire season of how we played to help us and callous us to be better in the playoffs, to win it all and do as best as we can.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
All righty, all right. So Happy New Year, and appreciate everyone being out here for big practice going into the last regular season game. Tough opponent, as you know, the Chargers, one of our big-time rivals, and they're going to be fired up and ready to do everything they can to beat us, and it's a hard-fought game all the time. Giff Smith, a lot of respect for. He's going to get those guys ready to play. They've been playing hard. They've been playing physical. And Easton Stick, since he took over, he's doing a good job there. Kellen Moore will have those offensive guys ready to roll, and then Eckler's as good as they come, and Everett, the tight end, he's been a go-to guy, and then obviously the crop of wideouts they have are as good as they come too if they're all playing. But with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Is this the hardest game for a coach when you don't have all your starters, you're coming off a win, you want to keep the momentum going into the playoffs, but you have a game here where you're also going to evaluate because you're going to see some people who haven't had a lot of playing time. So is this the most challenging game for you guys?
No, I don't look at it like that, and I know the way Coach Reed, Coach Spags, and Coach Nagy and all of us, whoever's playing is a starter. That's how we do it every week. So, whether you're second on the depth chart, whether you're going to be active that day, when you go out on the field, you're called upon, so you're playing like a starter. So it's an opportunity for us to compete, an opportunity to go get number 11, which we want, and an opportunity to make sure we're going into the playoffs with momentum.
George was really happy to get his 10th sack. Can you just speak to what he's done this year?
Well, he's had a great year. He's really works hard, and sometimes that's a milestone. Sometimes you might not get that, but you might have had a better year. But George has really worked hard, and he was relentless, and those came at a big time. The flurry of those sacks at the end. Coach Spags made some great calls, put guys in position, and he was relentless in getting after the quarterback. And as happy as George was, I think Chris was really probably more happy for him.
Last three. Go ahead,
What do you see out of the younger guys, Felix, BJ, a lot of them are going to get some play time potentially on Sunday, their development behind some of those vets that got there?
Well, a lot of times, as you go through the year, like I was just saying, talking about Felix, Felix got thrown into the fire early. George had to play early, but Felix was getting about 20, 25 snaps a game because we went in the first game without Chris. B, Charles was limited during the 6 games we didn't have him. So it was an opportunity for him to really show who he was, and he did a really good job. He was getting better, and we focused on him playing in that nickel package, on third down. And then when Charles came back, he was still rolling in that role. And then as we evolved into the season, Charles, Mike Dana, Chris, George, Turk, all were doing a great job. So it was hard to get another body in that position, but he's doing a great job, and he's only going to get better. And he'll play some this week like he has every week. And BJ, BJ's working hard, and opportunity to, you have a hat on Sunday to go show what you can do.
Coach, you guys have had a couple of volatile moments on the sideline. I know you and Chris, and we saw Willie and Charles kind of going at it. That's usually something that's a finger point thing. You guys are one of the best defenses in football. That's obviously not what's going on. Or I don't think it is. I mean,
No, not at all. So sometimes, if you sit around the D-line at practice or you sit around the D-line on the bench, that could happen every other series. I'm just a loud guy by nature. Chris is like, it's just one of those things. I mean, D-linemen they're aggressive, they're intense, and, we're
Is it an emotion? Is it
absolutely. Great. We have
trying to ramp everybody
we have a
up?
lot of emotion. That starts with Coach Spags. I mean, he's a high energy guy. All our position coaches. Sometimes in the heat of the battle, things happen. And I mean, Charles and Willie, shoot. Okay, next play, move on. And that's one of those things that just part of football.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
I need to learn that.
Fantastic. Happy New Year. Fire.
Go ahead.
The different characters, right? Like how much is this exciting? Is it a challenge when you know you're going to have maybe some different guys out there getting reps?
Yeah, it is fun. You love to see guys who've worked hard, who have improved through the course of the year, who maybe haven't gotten as many snaps as they would like to get an opportunity. That's always fun to see them take advantage of that for sure. So we'll get some of that.
When you examine the whole year, just what has Drew meant to you from a versatile standpoint, playing a lot of different positions?
He has been fantastic. From a versatility standpoint, as you mentioned, for sure, he can play multiple roles. He's been outstanding in terms of his ability to learn different roles. He works at it. We talked about something, in terms of moving forward, a little bit of something different that, he hasn't done, and he's already looking at it, and he's already got good questions. So, he's been a leader. He's got a professional attitude and mindset. He's been a lot of fun to have around.
How much of a hype man has Willie been on the sideline? We see him getting engaged, getting energetic, especially that last game. How much of a hype man is he for the rest of the guys?
You know what? He brings great energy, both on the sideline, in the game, and in the course of the everyday activities, whether it's meetings, whether it's walkthroughs. He's an energy giver. There's energy vampires that are around. Willie is very much an energy giver.
Who's an energy vampire?
I'm not going to call out names. You've all been in a room or with someone you work with that's, down all the time, doesn't have a whole lot of life to them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not, it's not all that pleasant to be around them. Not that they're a bad person.
A big opportunity game for Nick Jones. What do we see with Jones?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it remains to be seen, but I think I'm excited. He's one of those guys, excited to see him play. He's done a great job. He's learned things well. He's been very diligent, comes in early in each morning to get kind of the preliminary game plan because he misses a little bit of a meeting to go to special teams and things of that nature. So I'm excited to see him get an opportunity.
Max was just in here saying basically he's told everybody to go about your business the way you normally would. There's a playoff game less than 2 weeks away. But from your standpoint, what are you going to be looking at? Are you really looking at more of the development, Are you looking at getting that 11th win? Are you looking at carrying on so that there is momentum in the playoffs? What do you focus?
Well, I think there's an element of all of what you mentioned there. I would say my focus, though, is very singularly on this game. You know, you got guys that are playing different roles, that are playing different levels of snaps. It's total injustice, in my opinion, to not give those guys who are competing in this game every opportunity that you can give them to help them succeed. And so, to me, that's where the focus is. You know, I've gone about this week very structured and regimented, which we all are week to week, and tried to stay in that framework. You know, we'll get to next week. There's really not much we can do about that at this point. And to be honest, there's so many variables flying, still bouncing around in the air. Like, any work you do is probably going to be time misspent in some regard.
Is there any experimentation that you want to try and do this week as far as maybe seeing guys in different positions?
I don't know how much of that we'll get into. Like, there's kind of some emergency type of situations that you got to be ready to deal with that may create some of those situations, which, to be honest, that wouldn't be an awful thing in some ways. You know, with every negative comes a positive. One guy has an issue, somebody else gets an opportunity. So we're getting a little bit of that as we work through the week in terms of guys maybe preparing for maybe a second or third role that they haven't necessarily been ready to do in the past. So I do think there's some value in that in terms of guys growing, learning the overall system, understanding the big picture as opposed to just their specific role. There's certainly value to that.
Do you feel like you guys are finding a happy medium for getting Drew and Nick both on the field and getting them enough snaps to take advantage of what they both have?
Yeah, I would say, you know, we feel good about where that's at least I do personally. I mean, honestly, you'd like to get them all more. You'd also prefer not to play 70, 100 snaps of defense in a game too. So there's a flip side to that. But it's worked out pretty well. I thought Nick got in a pretty good rhythm in this past game, you know, after all that he's battled through from an injury standpoint, from a conditioning and all those type of things. And Drew continues to make plays when he's out there, regardless of what role we put him in.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Hey Dave,
How you doing?
Legarius and Trent both didn't make Pro Bowl. I just wanted your initial thoughts on that.
You know what? The beautiful thing about our country is that people are able to voice their opinion. They're able to vote. And so the fans decided that he wasn't good enough to make the Pro Bowl. I know if I was a defensive coordinator, he's one of the first guys that I'm going to come and grab because he's probably one of the more complete corners that I've ever been around in my building as far as when it comes to tackling as well as coveraging. So I just told LJ even last night that, hey, no matter what happens, just always stay humble, stay hungry, and, you know, stay positive and stay prayed up because, hey, your time will come. And he's the type of young man that he's not going to put the spotlight on himself. And that could be one of the reasons why, because he's not flashy or flamboyant. He kind of does his job and goes up under the radar.
How did he take the news?
To be honest with you, he hasn't talked about it, which is LJ's style, and hasn't said a word. And everyone else have made comments about it, but he hasn't said one word about it.
Whatever of your guys aren't going to play this week, I'm assuming he's one, probably Trent and maybe Justin Reed. What's your advice to them on how to stay in it this week? How do those guys?
Yeah.
If you're not going to play, how do you kind of keep your head in the game?
I think it comes back to Coach Reed and his leadership. So that's Andy's decision whether they are going to see however much playing time they're going to see. And so for them, what we've done all week long is that they've gone through the process as if we've preparing for the Super Bowl. Meaning, as I've said before, we have 2 separate walkthroughs that we have all of our guys working, and so not one thing has changed this week as far as being out there at practice. And so keeping your head in it is really more so these young men have to understand that you're a professional football player, and you have to understand that if whether you play 60 snaps or whether you play 5 snaps, if you don't go out there and put your best foot forward, you can risk injury. And so every guy is ready to go. Every guy is going to be in a situation whereas, hey, if your number's called, make sure you go out there and perform.
Dave, you were in the accelerator program back in Bay, and
Yes,
then
sir.
now you're trying to get involved, and you're doing well with the defensive backs.
Mhm.
Kind of a you question, but how much did that accelerator program maybe help you in terms of trying to determine your future and getting involved? Do you think that system works for guys like you?
Yeah, I do. I think that, being able to meet all 32 owners at the Accelerator program in Minnesota, Minneapolis this offseason was an eye-opener for me as far as seeing the owners outside of our ownership cap on, so to speak. They were able to lay their hat down. And so being able to interact with the owners and being able to allow them to see who I am and my personality, I think it does nothing but build bricks for the next generation. And I told my son, who's a coach at Barton University, Devon, I said, I went there to lay a brick for you. I've been in this league for 27 years, all right, and I've been blessed. If God doesn't do anything else, he's done enough. I said, but me going there was to lay a brick for you and to bring back some knowledge for you and maybe even some of your friends. And so at that, I would say that it was a tremendous experience for me.
Jumping off of that, Dave,
Yes, sir.
just the fact that you and Steve and most of the assistants have been together for so long, with
Yes,
such
sir.
a successful defense, no other opportunities of taking y'all away. Have you thought about that, of building your own defense as a coordinator in the future?
Well, one of the things, if I can answer it this way, one of the things that my wife Yolanda and I spoke about decades ago was that no matter what, I wasn't going to pursue any type of coordinating job while my kids were young. The meaning being is the fact that I wanted to be there Friday night games. I wanted to be there Saturday if I could to go to some games. And you can ask my wife Yolanda, she'll tell you the same thing. And so when that time arrives and if I'm afforded a position to be able to even go interview, I will consult with my wife, and then we will take the next step. But right now, I'm focused on trying to make sure that I be the best defensive coach I can be for my guys. And a lot of guys think the grass is greener on the other side, and then all of a sudden you can go chase the money. But I've always told my young coaches that are around me, you want years of service. Years of service is more important than money, because money is going to come and go. It's fleeting. And so, but honestly, you take that chair as a coordinator, you're responsible for the entire unit, and now some of your closeness goes away. And what we experience in the defensive back room, and even when I was coaching linebackers, that bond that I've had with my players over the decades has been precious to me, and I don't want to lose that right now. So,
Just for clarification, your kids are still young? You're still young? I'm sorry, I don't know.
well, here's the deal. So I
When is
have,
that window
that's all right,
open?
that's all right. I have a 33-year-old, and then we have a 27, 25-year-old, and then my wife wouldn't stop chasing me. So now we have a 15 and a 17-year-old. So we waited 8 years, and so I had to start all over again. And so right now, we have a sophomore and a junior in high school here at Blue Valley, and so have a couple more years. Hey, I'm just saying, it's not my fault. So.
I just wanted to ask you about
Yes, sir.
Merritt obviously didn't make it, and you were with them for a while. What you thought about seeing him make it?
Interesting, Shavarius and I were talking last night. We text each other back and forth, and I congratulated him. And I'm just so proud of another young man who came out as a free agent. We snagged him from Dallas and brought him here. And then in his second year, he had a chance to actually lay his hat down and go out there and just play, stop overthinking things. And then he just grew, just like LJ from his first year. They both just got better and better. And you're just improving in increments. And so But Ward and I were just talking last night, and I'm thrilled that he had an opportunity to get his name called. All right? All right. Thank you.
Last but not least.
Hey, David, Coach Reed, after last game, after the win, complimented the staff for offensive staff for coming together, come up with solutions. Can you just go over like the last week of what you guys did to kind of come together in that week after the Raiders loss?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we wanted to be able to get the guys to go out, play fast, be confident, and all those things. And so we simplified some things, let the guys go, get out, get set, go play. I thought they did. I thought the guys, they ended up executing the plan, and we were very efficient. I feel like as an offense, and that was, a lot of us just trying to let them go play.
Is that the same this week when you've got a different cast of characters, not all the starters are playing?
Yeah, you always want, at the end of the day, you want the guys to be able to go do that. And whether it's the starters, whether it's other guys, and at the end of the day, let them go play. And that's really, what the plan is.
How different is Gabbard in the way he throws a pass? And is it as hard as Mahomes? And what do you have to adjust to for his style?
Yeah, Blaine, he's a smart guy. He's seen a lot of football. He's been in some different offenses. So I think from that standpoint, just he's good with seeing the field, seeing the progressions and all that. Arm talent is there. It's a little different than Pat, but it's definitely they have their strengths. But it's similar.
Matt talked about being proud of Patrick kind of rewiring what he does based off of this year's team to play complementary football. I was wondering how many of those conversations have taken place for him to maybe do something differently this year based off of the defense.
Yeah, I think that's a constant, conversation that we have. We got to see how the defenses are playing. It's a week-to-week basis, and then also the trend of the year, what's kind of happening, and so it is a constant conversation that we just got to, again, be efficient with the ball, and if the deep shot's not there, take the check down, all those things. So it's been a gradual conversation that we've had throughout the year.
Dave, a little bit different type of season for him than he's had since he's been here. What effect has that had on him, do you think?
At the end of the day, Pat's competitive and he wants to win. And, we've had, success. We've had the opportunity to win the West here. So I feel like, from his standpoint, that's all he wants to do. He just wants to win. And so regardless of how that's done, whether it's thrown for a lot, whether we got to hand the ball out, whatever it may be, at the end of the day, he wants to win. And, we've been able to do that.
David, how much of the simplification this last week is just self-scout versus game plan against the Bengals defense?
It's always going to be a little bit of both. You always have to evaluate, what you do well, but then also how to attack, the opposing defense and what they do, what are their strengths, what their weaknesses. So it's a little bit of both.
Last two. Go ahead, sorry.
Coach, how different, I know you got Blaine Gabbert playing, right, that's different, but for you and your duties, knowing that the game doesn't count in the count as far as the playoffs on the side, are you picking up some extra duties, looking ahead, or is Andy gonna change who's calling plays, who's doing different things? Is anything gonna be a little bit of a experiment this week since you have this kind of unique opportunity?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you want the guys to go out and play, the guys that are out there. So we got to give them our best. We expect the same out of them. So there are guys that are able to get ahead on certain things that have those roles. But as far as myself, it's the Chargers and getting Blaine and Chris, those guys ready to roll.
Last one, Nate.
David, what have you learned most about Patrick this year?
I would say adaptability. His way to change throughout the course of the season and change the way defenses are playing him. It's a lot different than what it was, 2018, 2019, 2020. And so he's had to adapt a little bit. And, it's been a growth thing for him, even in prior years, but continuing this year. So just to see him continue to adapt and take what teams are giving him and things like that.
Is there an example that comes to mind when you say adapt?
I would say just being more patient. I think would be the big thing, as far as, going through progressions. And like I said, if the big play's not there, there's no problem checking it down and letting the guys go.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks. Yep, appreciate you.